are powers on Earth too hidden to be seen, and conspiracies too vast to comprehend. For years, the world has seen fact distorted, reality manipulated, and the truth concealed. Join the Pierre Sebac podcast to uncover the real meanings behind ancient aliens and their symbolism.
Hi, this is Pierre Sebac, unlocking the keys to the mysteries. Now, in my previous video, we talked about how the Seraphim were one and the same with the Harpy, and I want to really introduce a few different types of entities into this equation. So today we're going to be looking at the Lamia, and we're also going to be looking at the ghoul as well, which is a type of Djinn. And again, I'm going to be arguing that all of these entities are very closely related within symbolism. So I'm going to just summarize a few etymologies at the beginning of this video. Then I'm going to try and offer a breakdown of what these etymologies actually mean. Again, this research has come from my book Holographic Culture. So if you're interested in how the Djinn are related to the Lamia, the Seraphim and the Harpies, then I recommend that you check out my book Holographic Culture. Now, going back to the Harpies, I mentioned in my previous video that the Harpies is a word which is translated as an abductor. It comes from the Greek root arpue, which literally means the abductors. Now, the arpue are symbolized with fire, hence the correlation with apto, which is to kindle a fire so as to radiate. So the Harpies are viewed as the shining ones, much in the same way as what the Seraphim are. Okay, and arpue, an abductor, again is a cognate of arpazo, which is to snatch or to pluck, and is related to opalon, a shield. As we said in the previous video, the Harpies are one and the same with opalite, a soldier, which would make them in symbolism the same as the host, specifically the seraphic host. Hence, we have got the watchers, opa, and office, which is a serpent. Now, going into the Greek, we have Lamia, a monster. Lamia monster in the Greek is related closely to the Aramaic root lami, which is bright or shining. In the Greek, lambano, which is to catch or to take. Hence, the Lamia is a shining one. Okay, so the symbolism is a diptych paranomasia. Lamia, a monster, is a diptych paranomasia on the Aramaic root lami, which is bright or shining. And the Lamia can be symbolized with lamina, which is a coin. In this respect, the coin is used as a signifier of the votive. As we mentioned before in various videos, the votive dish is a symbol of an axle and wheel and is tied into the veneration or worship. The terminology is worship of these flying wheels, of these flying vessels. So the votive dish takes on the characteristic of an axle and wheel. And lastly, we've got the Seraphim. Again, all of these are polyglottal symbols. So Seraphim, the fiery serpents, is equivalent to an harpy or a lamia. We said that the word arpue is an abductor. Seraphim, seraph, shover is a captor. Again, serapha, which is fire, shover, which is a captor, and saphira, which is a sphere. In this context would be the same signifier as both a coin, which would be aligned to redemption, and opalon, a shield, which is this flying shield, which is identified in the ancient mystery traditions with a missile. The shields were used as a type of missile, so they're flying shields which adorn the surface of a boat, or the outward the exterior of a boat. So if we summarize these etymologies, we can say then in Greek legend the arpui, literally those who snatch or abduct, we can say that it's related to Erpeton, a reptile. Okay, so it can be really understood to be a dragon, which is a creature that is very much kindred to the Lamia, which is a type of serpent being with a woman's body who preys upon human beings. And this is kind of interesting because, again, this would connote that if the Seraphim is the same as the Lamia and is the same as the Harpy, then there is this connotation that the Seraphim must be linked to blood drinking. And we find that the veneration of the Seraphim and the veneration of the angels are identified with blood sacrifice. In the same way with the Elohim, when mankind worshipped the Elohim, they would make blood offerings. Now, as we said before, the Harpy is a type of abductor. The terminology is really coming from the Greek root arpazo, which is to snatch or to pluck. But again, we find that there is a similar correspondence with the Lamia. So therefore, the terminology Lamia corresponds etymologically with the Greek verb lambano, which is to catch, hold or take. Now, in many respects, we can say that lambano, to catch, hold or take, it's a bivarication. It's a split on the Greek word lumeno, which is to lay waste, which is a metonym of a seraph. In the Old Semitic, Awim, the serpents are also known as the destroyers. It's a polymorphic word. So again, the connotation of the Lamia is one who steals or takes, but is also one who lays waste or destroys, and this has a connotation of a serpent. So as we showed in the in the etymologies, which I went through at the beginning of this video, the seraphic hosts, really, it's the same definition as a Lamia, and we can say therefore that the Lamia is the same as the Seraphim, and we know this because the Greek word Lamia is really coming from the Aramaic verb lami, which means bright or shining, and again there's this close comparison with the Greek word lampsi, which means to flash, which would link the Lamia with a watcher, variously a shining one, otherwise a dragon or a seraphim. Again, drakon, which is to look, is coming from the verb to gleam or to flash. Now, in Greek, the Lamia is often categorized as a type of mythical creature which sucks the blood of children. It can be understood to be a type of demonic entity, and it's very similar to an entity which is also referred to in the Greek as empousa, which is a vampire. Now, it's very interesting because the Greek word empousa, a vampire, is a corruption of the name of Medusa. Medusa was the Gorgon, Gorgos meaning terrible, but was the Gorgon with the she was half serpent and half human, in the same way that the Lamia is half human and half serpent. So we're seeing that there's this crossover of signifiers, and I think here the connotation of the serpent and human would really be referring to the Nephilim, or the offspring, which were said to be a grafted, a woven or a stitched offspring. So they're a type of hybrid, and they were created by the Elohim. In particular, they were an unsanctioned bloodline which were laid waste. In the traditions of the deluge, they were said to be made extinct, but allegedly. So we can say, we can also say that the empousa, a vampire, that there are celestial connotations, because the terminology empousa, a vampire, is really a wordplay on the Greek root empyreos, heaven, literally of the fire. Now, what could of the fire means? Well, empyreos, of the fire, is really another signifier of Sirius. We said before that Sirius is related to Sira, which is a spark. The spark connotes the seraphim, because seraph, a serpent, is related to serapha, fire. The seraphim are these non-human angels which are said to look reptilian in appearance. So, in many respects, we can say that empyreos, which is this heavenly fire, is really implicit of the shining Djinn, a radiant being created from the smokeless fire. So in other words, empousa, a vampire, is related to the shining fire, in much the same way that Seraph, a serpent, is related to Seraph, fire, which is the signifier of the Djinn, those who are born of fire. Now, those who are born of fire is this astrological marker of Sirius. So we're not looking at this necessarily in a literal sense, but we're looking at this from a symbolic sense, that the Djinn are identified or originate from Sirius. In the same way that the Lamia, which is a type of empousa, a vampire, again is derived from of the fire, empyreos, of the fire. So we can say, if we were breaking all this down, that the Lamia is a type of serpent deity, and the serpent deity once again links with the Djinn, and we know this because the Seraphim is translated in the Arabic as a Djinn, the old Semitic word Djinn, a serpent. We've got the Djinn are a type of dragon. Again, they can be viewed as a type of watcher, hence Drakain, which is coming from the root to watch, to flash, to gleam. We've got the Seraphim. The Seraphim are derived from Sirius because they are derived from fire. The terminology Sirius means the sparkling one, hence a spark, or Serapha, fire, Seraph, which is a serpent. And these are all non-human entities, and the connotation is certainly, if we look at the idea that the Arpi abduct, that the Djinn or the Lamia are said to be blood-drinking entities, and they're sharing the same etymologies with the Arpi, the abductors, and the Seraphim, Shovev, which is a type of captor, then again the connotation is of a type of Djinn, a type of ghoul. Okay, so the Arabic word ghoul is another word for the Lamia, which is a ghoul or a vampire in English. So, if we're going to summarise this, we could say, therefore, that the Djinn, they're a type of vampire, and we can also say that the Lamia is a type of vampire, and the connotation of the vampire is also found within the name of the Lamia as well, because Lamia is from the Greek adjective lamaros, which means glutton. Let me say this correctly: gluttonous. And gluttonous is a description which is compatible in colloquial Arabic with the female Djinn gula, a greedy or gluttonous individual. So, in other words, and the word gula, which is a female Djinn, is related to a ghoul. In English, a ghoul. So we can say that the Lamia is one and the same type of entity with a ghoul. So linguistically, the classification gula, a type of malevolent Djinn, is a modification of the more common noun ghoul, a ghoul or a blood-sucking Djinn. And this, according to Arab scholars, the word ghoul is derived from the verbal root gala, which is to seize, a term explicit of a devil or a reptile. Latin rapere, to snatch or laced waist. So we can say, therefore, rapere, to snatch, is related to reptile. In English, we would say dragon, and to drag, which is to drag off. Again, Soros, a lizard, again is related to the etymology of dragging away, of snatching. So these etymologies are all interrelated. So, for example, gula is related to gala, which is to seize. It's a type of reptile. Rapere, which is to snatch, lay waste. Again, the connotation of rapere can also have the connotation of rape as well, so this can be sexual abduction. And this fits in with the ufological tradition of the alien, who is said to steal. Again, Lamia is related to lambano, which is to catch or to take. And Arpi is related to arp, which is to seize. Drakon again, drasomai, which is to grasp. The Seraphim is related to Shovev, a captor. So the seraphic host, they are identified with abduction, and I think that this is important to really make this point, because we can say that the reptile is one and the same thing with the dragon, and is connected to snatching, to stealing. It's connected to abduction, and again the Djinn are connected to abduction and to stealing, and again the dragon is in English to drag off. If we look at the Dead Sea Scrolls, I think it's made very clearly in the Thanksgiving hymns. I'm going to read this. This is from the Thanksgiving hymn, chapter 13, section 10 from the Dead Sea Scrolls. Like the venom of dragons, all their design is for robbery, and they have lain in wait. Okay, so again, the idea of laying in wait is connoting this watcher, and that they steal or they abduct. So we can say, therefore, if particularly when we view this in terms of textual evidence and etymological evidence, we can say that the dragon is a type of seraphim or a Djinn, and we can say that they're closely connected both to the Lamia, and they're connected to the ghoul, which are one and the same with both the harpy and the seraphim. And I want to really look at the Lamia, and I want to look at these blood-drinking entities, and I want to try and show the etymological relationship between the Arabic word ghoul or ghoul, masculine and feminine, and the Lamia. Okay, so if we go into the Greek etymology of Lamia, which is a type of female Djinn, it's basically consistent with gula, which is a female Djinn. The masculine word would be ghoul, which is a ghoul. But Lamia is related to Lamaros, which is gluttonous, in the same way that Ghoul is related to Ghoul, which is greedy. In the same way that we can say that Lamia is related, the female demon Lamia is related to Lambainen, which is to take hold of. Ghoul is related to Gala, which is to seize. Again, the connotation would be of a reptile. In the Greek, the connotation would be of a harpy, an abductor, one who steals, one who snatches. Now, in the symbolism, the Lamia is related to redemption, hence Lamina, which is a coin, which is the Latin word. But again, the connotation would be of a redemption. Now, as I've said before, coins usually have a serrated edge, and the reason for this is that the coin is being represented symbolically as a cog, and it is said that the flying saucer or the carrier of the angels are made from a series of cogs. So again, this is a signifier of the opening wheels. But in the same way that the ghoul are related, the gula are also related to circular wheels. In this context, gula, which would be a bowl or a globe. Okay, so the circle is important because it's a signifier of the seraphic host. So the serpent, for example, when we look at the ophanim and how it's combined with the throne or the throne chariot, is often combined with the wheel. So the serpent is understood in this respect to be identified with an angelic carrier, and it can be understood to be a type of seraphic host. So if we look at these two etymologies of the Lamia and the Gula, we can say that according to the ancient sources, the Lamia and the Ghoul, that they're creatures which are often depicted in conjunction to circular type of vessels. Now this is the study of cytology, the study kutos of vessel, types of vessels. Now in this respect, Lamina a coin and Gula, which is a bowl or a type of globe. And this interconnects both with libation vessels. As we said before, the libation vessel is represented as a type of wheel within symbolism, which hieroglyphically is used also to denote Sirius. But is also identified with the ritual of sacrifice and blood sacrifice and the worship of these deities. Hence the wheel is literally the veneration of an angelic carrier or vessel. In the same way, we would say that worship, again, the church as a nave, and is related etymologically to navis, which is a ship. In the Arabic, Saba, which is to glorify, is related to Sabaoth, which is the host. Now, so the worship of these flying vessels are connected to blood sacrifice, and we can also say that these entities are often viewed, that they're often linked into the vampiric tradition. So the Lamia and the Ghoul, they're a species of Djinn or a species of demon, but they are connected to the vampiric tradition, and they're often identified with immolation, with sacrifice, and they can be understood to be type of demonic beings, particularly demonic beings which materialize in relation to sacrificial offerings. And these sacrificial offerings in the ancient languages were connected to the veneration of angelic vehicles or vessels. So the votive dish would be represented as this wheel, which would denote the opening wheels, which would be a type of votive dish. As we said before, there is this correspondence between Gula, which is a bowl, and Gula, which is a female Djinn, but the terminology bowl is polymorphic of a globe, which is this circle. So, and again, we could see that there's an approximation between Gula Djinn and Galgala wheel. Now, Galgala wheel is an alternative word used in the scriptural tradition to refer to the opening wheels. The opening wheels are these carriers of angels, which are typically represented as the chariots of the gods. In the same way, in Greek mythology, they would use the shield, Opelon, a shield related to Pleon, which is a boat or a vessel, to denote a flying boat or a vessel, because the shield is also used as a type of missile. So this is a flying boat or a flying vessel which is elliptical, hence the correspondence between an archon and its arc or arc, which is a round vessel. So these are all, if you like, scatological motives. They're motives of boats, and they're interconnected with circular vessels. These circular vessels are understood to be angelic carriers, but can be represented within symbolism as a type of votive dish. And both the angelic sailor, Malak an angel, Malak a sailor, or the Djinn, they're all occupiers of these circular vessels, whether they're shields, whether they're represented as a type of bowl or a vessel. Again, the idea of a vessel is interconnected with the scaphological tradition, which is the study of these ships or vessels. So I'm just going to close and look at the tradition of the Djinn, and I'm going to argue that in many respects that the Djinn can be understood to be a grey alien, and I'm going to argue this, and it's based primarily upon the symbolism. So for example, if we look at the Djinn, as we said before, Lamia, a female demon, is related to one who is gluttonous, and again there's a close cognate with limos, which is hunger, and she can be represented with lamina, which is a coin, which would be a symbol of redemption, of blood sacrifice to a type of entity, angel, god. These were all connected to the worship of deities or gods. But again, we've got polyglottal symbolism, because the ghoul is related to gu, which is hungry, and galgal, which is a wheel. So the ghoul are said to be hungry. And again, the Djinn is related in the Arabic to Jian, which is hungry, and Junna, which is a shield. Again, the shield is a symbol of the harpy, those who abduct. In the Greek language, arpue is an abduct. The abductors is related to oplon, a shield, which would be viewed as a type of erpaton, a reptile. The shining ones, which are identified with Sirius. Now, the reason why the Djinn are represented as hungry, in my opinion, is because that they are skeletal-like in appearance. And what is skeletal-like in appearance? Well, the Watchers are skeletal-like in appearance, or the aliens, and the motive of the alien is the eye. So the eye is used as a signifier of the Watcher, and the aliens themselves look emancipated. They're skeletal in appearance. And again, we find the same wordplay within ufology. Greys, which is the plural noun for a grey alien, is related to greys, is related to gaze, which is to watch, and gloss, which is a type of luster, which are the shining ones, or if you like, the same wordplay would be Sofa for watcher, Seraph and Serapha, which is fire. Again, the Seraph are non-human entities. Again, Theos, God, Theros, a watcher, and Phos, which is light. So these signifiers are referring to Drakon, Drakos, which is an eye. In the old Greek word Drakos, meaning eye, is related to Drakane, which is to watch, to flash, to shine. So these are all signifiers of non-human entities. Now, again, this is where the symbolism often crosses over, because the Seraphim, it is clear that the Seraphim is a type of reptilian being, and they look like serpents. And again, this idea that the Seraphim and the grey alien, they are closely interconnected. Now, it's very difficult to actually disassemble and understand how they are different. I think personally, having looked at this very closely, that the Seraphim, that they are different from the grey alien, but they are certainly closely related to the signifiers and the symbolism of the grey alien, such as the signifier of light, such as the signifier of watching, and the eye. So although we can say that the ghoul is hungry and is therefore can be represented as an emancipated being, which looks like an embryo, and in this respect can be viewed as a type of alien. They're closely connected or identified with the Seraphim, but I think that these are probably separate species. But the grey alien and the Seraphim, certainly within the symbolic tradition, are very closely aligned. And that's basically the symbolism of how the Lamia fits in with the ghoul, and how the Seraphim and the harpy are interconnected. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Again, this is very occult and very specialised knowledge, so I would ask my viewers, please pass these videos around, and please discuss and talk and critique these videos. This is Pierre Sabak. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Please subscribe to my channel, give my videos a thumbs up, and let's try and make this a better world. Thank you very much for listening. This is Pierre Sabak.